The publicly funded British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, has been embroiled in a spate of allegations that it had failed to maintain political neutrality in its reporting, including in its coverage of Donald Trump, the Israel-Hamas war, and over transgender issues. BBC Director General Tim Davie and its news CEO, Deborah stepped down on Sunday following these accusations. But there's more to the story than what meets the eye. Take a look. Following the resignation of BBC Director General Tim Davie and News CEO Deborah, BBC Chairman Samir Sha on Monday apologized for editing a speech that suggested Donald Trump had directly instigated an attack on the US Capitol, resulting in the dramatic resignations of the broadcaster's top brass. In a letter to British lawmakers on Monday, BBC Chair Samir Sha wrote, "The BBC accepts the way the speech was edited did give the impression of a direct call for violent action. The BBC would like to apologize for that error of judgment. It is absolutely clear the BBC must champion impartiality." Earlier, BBC Director General Tim Davie and News CEO Deborah both quit on Sunday following the accusations.
Well, I'm prepared to take the appropriate disciplinary action all the way to termination.
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
So what is at the heart of this controversy? Let's find out. In Trump's speech in Washington, D.C. on 6 January 2021, he had said, "We are going to walk down to the Capitol and we are going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women." However, in the panorama edit, he was shown saying, "We are going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be there with you. And we fight like hell." The two sections that were stitched together were originally more than 50 minutes apart. US President Donald Trump promptly celebrated, accusing BBC journalists of being corrupt and dishonest. Just a few hours after the resignations, US President took to Truth Social to thank the Telegraph newspaper for exposing these corrupt journalists. That's not all. BBC News on Monday said it had received threat for legal action from Trump over the controversial speech edit. The White House, too, had recently denounced the broadcaster as a propaganda machine. BBC, which is funded by a license fee paid by all television-watching households, comes under intense scrutiny from opposition parties, viewers and critics alike. Reform UK party leader Nigel Farage said that the BBC has been institutionally biased for decades.
BBC has been institutionally biased for decades. I well remember the Wilson report 2 decades ago, saying the BBC were not covering areas like Europe and immigration with any sense of impartiality. And you could, add on to that net zero, climate change, all their interpretation of the horrors that have happened in Gaza, and now, of course, the United States president.
We don't know yet what happened within the labyrinthine committee meetings and discussions in the BBC, but the BBC was slow to respond to the latest allegations, and I think they were flat-footed for 3 or 4 days when the story broke about the Michael Prescott dossier. That said, the Director General of the BBC is the most enormous job. It's a simple question. Is DG of the BBC too big a job for one person? And does it need the BBC to rethink the way it handles both its editorial and its chief executive officer?
Widely respected around the world, the BBC still tops polls in Britain on the most trusted news brand and has huge reach in the country, providing news, entertainment and sport. Tanvi Taneja for DD India.